I love mashed potatoes. Even though they are not good for health, you should take those moderately. However, one can never have enough Mash Kyrielight figures. Hi everyone and welcome back to Excrogane Studio. I'm Steven with a scale figure review for today. Today we'll be taking a look at Mash Kyrielight, and Mash Kyrielight as a character, well, there has been many figure releases over the years. The first scale figure was probably the one by Aniplex, and until today you can still pick one up for not too much money. That is one of the most affordable Mash Kyrielight figures out there. And then yeah, there were several price figures as well, but for today we will be taking a look at this one right here. This is Square Skill's 1x7 scale Mash Kyrielight Ortinax version, otherwise known as Ortenaus version, from Fate's Grand Order, and she goes for an eye-watering 27,000 Japanese yen. This figure of Mash was released back in April this year, April 2022. However, I chose to be a bit patient. My personal prediction was that the price of this figure would fall over time despite the popularity of the character Mash Kyrielight, because, well, there are too many Mash Kyrielight figures out there in the figure market. So you see, when a character is very popular to the extent that it has spawned so many figures, which means the customer target base would have been thinned out. There will be those who prefer figure A, and there will be those who prefer figure B, figure C from different companies and so on. And not everyone can afford multiple figures of the same character. So the demand after release would eventually fall, which is why I don't think the value would go up. And exactly as predicted, her price fell and I got mine for only 18,000 Japanese yen. Yeah. 18,000, that is like a whole 30% cheaper than the recommended retail price of 27,000 yen. So sometimes it pays to be a bit patient, but at the same time you need to know how to read and analyze the figure market. Yeah, you can actually find this scale figure of Mash for about, I would say realistically speaking, 20,000 to 22,000 yen is not too far off. You can find her for such prices. The second reason why I believe that this version of Mash Kyrielight would fall in price over time is because there are mixed opinions about this version of Mash Kyrielight, this character design. Not everyone in the FGO universe likes this character design. Many prefer the original design of Mash Kyrielight. However, I'm quite fond of it because it reminds me of Gundam. Yeah, I was a fan of Gunpla, model kits and so on 10 or 12 years ago, but I don't mess with model kits anymore because I don't have the time to do so. This reminds me of the full armor concept in the Gundam universe. For example, you have Double Z Gundam, and then there's a full armor version, FAZZ. Yeah, very similar concept we are looking at over here. So I kind of like the science fiction-esque feel of this version of Mash Kyrielight. I like it a lot. If even the FGO fans themselves didn't like this version of Mash Kyrielight, even just a fraction of them, then perhaps the demand for this figure wouldn't be as high as one would like to think, resulting in a fall in the price and value over time, which exactly did happen as I predicted. So I took advantage of it and bought it last month in October. Your only other option if you want a so-called full armor version of Mash Kyrielight is the Banpresto price figure, and that one was fairly expensive for a price figure. So before we move on to the figure, let's take a quick look at the box. This is what her box looks like, and actually to my surprise, it was way smaller than I expected it to be, which is normally a good thing because you save on shipping cost. But a small box also means less protection for the figure. Though for the case of Mash Kyrielight over here, I imagine that this figure does not need that much protection to begin with because there are no fragile parts sticking out like Elizabeth Battery, for example, which was also from Quest-Q. Elizabeth Battery had a fairly small box as well, given the design of the figure, and mine arrived with a broken tail, which is kind of sad to be honest. Now we move on to the actual figure itself. This is where I have heard mixed stories from different figure collectors out there. While the feedback from many collectors were mostly positive, there were also 2 or 3 of them I've heard from who faced quality control issues regarding the paintwork on this figure. So I would say probably every copy of this figure of Mash Kyrielight is a bit different. As it turns out, I got lucky this time around because my copy turns out to be mostly perfect. Maybe there are flaws that I might have missed out, but on my copy, I couldn't find much of an issue with the paintwork. While the sculpting already appears to be fairly detailed on this figure, you might come across a few extra paint chips, dings, or flaws all over her shield and her armor, but those are not exactly flaws. They appear to be intentional. I believe those are battle damage effects which they added to this figure. I think it is a very nice touch. And personally, I would like to see a bit more battle damage effects even. This makes this figure a bit different from most other anime figures out there, well except those battle damage effects version from Girls Frontline or Kankole. Yeah, I would like to see battle damage effects on figures because it is a way of adding detail onto a figure, onto a character, and I really do like it a lot. I'm also happy to report that the face of this figure of Mash Kyrielight appears to be totally fine. I can't find anything to complain about. There is also sufficient shading on her hair as well, though if there is one thing which I think can be improved upon, it is that metaverse headset on her head. Yeah, that headset over there, I think it can make do with a bit more battle damage effects on the surface so that it looks a bit more well balanced when you have a ton of those effects on the shield. The paintwork of this figure, at least on my copy, appears to be totally fine. I can't find a single paint bleeding part or scratches or smudges all over the figure. So my copy appears to be very well made, though at the same time, because this figure is very dark in colors, dark grey and black color paints all over the place, it is a bit difficult to appreciate the amount of details you can see on this figure, unless you place her under bright lighting. If you look at the brown color region surrounding the shield's handle, you might see a lot of uneven paint, a lot of blotches of brown color paint all over the place. I don't think this is a flaw in paintwork at all. It is probably part of that intentional battle damage effect we are getting on her shield all over the place. So if you are fighting an enemy in an area which is very dusty or muddy, this is exactly the effect you will get on any metallic surface. So I actually do like this effect a lot. And then the last thing, which is the base. Well, there is nothing quite wrong with the base at all. I do like that Chaldia logo all over the surface. But this choice of dark blue color for the base, I'm not very sure if it is suitable for this figure of Mash Kyrielight. I wouldn't say it looks out of place, but at the same time it looks a bit unsuitable. I'm not very sure. You do get metal foot pegs, one into her left foot and the other one into the shield, which is more than enough to keep the figure very stable. This figure is relatively stable. As you can see, when I do shake it, it does wobble ever so slightly, but at the same time, not as bad as many other figures out there. Is this figure of Mash Kyrielight by QuestQ worth it at all? Yes, if you can get her for a discount, not for 27,000 yen, I think 27,000 yen is ridiculous. 20,000 yen or maximum 22,000 yen, I would say this is a relatively good purchase. In fact, I would say that this is a must-have for Fate Grand Order fans, but understandably, not everyone likes this version of Mash Kyrielight. But to those of you who like it, please do buy this figure of Mash Kyrielight. I would say you will like it a lot. So that is all about the review of this figure of Mash Kyrielight 1/7 scale by QuestQ. If you do have any questions, please do ask it down in the comments below. And thank you very much for watching. I shall see you guys again soon. Goodbye.